Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Ellsworth, and what we're going to be talking about today is the properties of numbers. Okay, in science and in math, we both have properties that will describe the situation every time and how you can deal with it every time, and so that works pretty nifty. Now, if you go and look at our first property, we're going to talk about commutative property. If you look at that, you'll notice it's got 2 plus 10. Well, the neat thing about the commutative property is that with addition or multiplication, you could add these up with 10 in front or 2 in the front. It doesn't matter. These two right here will both equal 12 no matter what you do. So with commutative property, you're switching the numbers to, that when the numbers are switched around, you're talking about commutative property. It's really nice and simple written like this. And of course, when you get into upper level math, you'll be having, instead of a number here, it'll have a phrase of numbers or else an algebraic expression for each one of these. But we got to get the properties down in the simplest form now at your grade. And I think that this is a review also from previous years, so you probably should have heard of these numbers by now. So commutative property means that the numbers could be in any order. It's when you're adding up all of them, or if the problem is all multiplications. Okay? It doesn't work if you've got addition and multiplication. Then you got to do the order of operations. Okay? Subtraction never works either, because think about it. 5 minus 2 is not the same as 2 minus 5. You're getting a negative number in that second situation I was talking about there. It also doesn't work either with multiplication. Or division, excuse me. So if you have 6 divided by 2, that equals 3. But if you have 2 divided by 6, that equals 1/3. So they're not equal for when you're talking about division or subtraction. This only works for addition and multiplication. Okay, so let's go ahead also and look at the associative property. Now the associative property means that you can move these parentheses. So this would be more like, well, why would you want to do that? Well, in my head, when I'm going to group numbers, I will go and take the 5 plus 5 first, 10, and I'll add it to 13. So it's really how we group numbers in our head, and they equal the same. If you add this up, this is going to be 18 plus 5 more is 23, but my head really thinks these way. I group up those 5s. I like grouping up things in 10s in my mind, and it's easy to just add a 10s unit to this one. Okay, so associative property means you're going to switch the parentheses around, as where commutative property meant that you were going to switch the numbers. Okay. So I've got a couple more properties for us to talk about, but let's first talk about these ones again with multiplication. So if I have 6 times 5, which equals 30, what else equals 30? 5 times 6. So again, commutative property means that it doesn't matter which order that you have it, you can switch those numbers around when they are all multiplication, in this case. And you're switching those numbers around so that you got some better groupings, when you got some larger numbers and stuff, so that makes it a little bit easier. Here's another one here. So instead of grouping the numbers by the first ones in there, if I had more than just 2, and this right here is where you would go and switch the parentheses around. So if I was going to do this one in my head, I would not do 8 times 12 and then times that by 5. That's where I'd probably have to write it down on paper and figure it out. Instead, I want to go and take 12 times 5 to get 60, because I know 6 times 8 is 40, so it'd be 400. Okay, so switching the parentheses around made it easier for me to do my grouping. Okay, so again, this is associative and the commutative properties. You switch numbers with commutative property, and you switch parentheses around for the grouping. And this is all about grouping your numbers on both cases. Okay, so here are a couple more properties. Okay, so you need to write these ones down, but you do not need to write down all of this. Now the additive property, additive identity, is actually when you start out with one number and you get the same exact number. Okay, by adding it to 0. Well, whenever you add 0 to any number, you get that original number. Okay, so that's the additive identity. Now the multiplication identity is whenever you're going to get a number and you're going to get the same one in the end. But now you're going to multiply it times 1 to get that same number. So anytime you multiply anything times 1, you can get 8. Now, later on, when you're in upper level maths, 1 could represent a couple of different things. And so, so this might seem really, oh, like Mrs. Ellsworth, this is just doesn't make sense. Why would you even worry about this? Well, because 1 can represent some things. Like you could have a couple of years down the road, it'll be like 12 inches over 1 foot equals 1, 2. So, I mean, it could equal different things, and then you can see how we could still convert things around with that. Okay, now the multiplicative property of 0, or else this is also called the 0 property, is anytime you multiply anything times 0, guess what you're going to get? 0. Okay, and so that's what that one is about. So identity properties, you end up getting the same exact number that you started out with, and the 0 property you get 0 for a product. Okay, so I wanted to go and look at some examples in the book, and I know that I've got the answers written on this, but let's talk through each one of these. Okay, so number 2, you can see that before the equal sign, they've got 8 times 4, and after the equal sign, they've switched the numbers around from the original part. So this is the commutative property. Now notice that they've got a times sign behind there. So that's all you got to write here is commutative property and then a times sign. Okay, look at this one. Anything times 1 is an identity property of multiplication because you're getting the same exact number that you start out with. We know this one's an identity property also too because you're getting the same exact number that you start out with, but this is addition. You're adding 0 to get the same exact number. Okay, back over to here. Well, they wanted to switch the 9 and the 3 around. Okay, the 9 and the 3 around. I don't know why, but you know that they switch the numbers around. Anytime you switch numbers around, it is commutative property. Okay, so this is commutative property, and these are all addition. So it's going to be commutative property of addition. Okay, right here we've got some numbers that just got switched around too. We got 13 plus 12, which equals the same exact thing as 12 plus 13, and that's a property. They always be equal because it's addition. Okay, so commutative property of addition. Okay, here we go. So now we've got, I don't know why they wanted to group it this way, but hey, whatever. Anyway, so they're just showing how that the parentheses are now around 9 and 1, and instead they're going to switch around 6 and 1. Okay. Now this one I think is nice because it helps us see why you would use the associative property. So if you go and look at this, let me grab a pen here. If we go and look at this, we actually need to get these two numbers together so that we can go and figure out what this, because we're supposed to simplify these. Whenever it says simplify, remember you're supposed to find the answer. Okay, so we need to move those parentheses. So I'm going to move it around the 9 plus 5, okay, plus y. So now we've got 14 plus y for our answer. And this right here, we're going to want to do some commutative property inside of those parentheses to get that 3 plus 8 together in parentheses, and then plus that k still. So it's going to be 11 plus k. Works out pretty nifty, doesn't it? Okay, so let's look at your problems that are due. Okay, so these ones right here, you need to name the property. So you can look up all of those. Okay. Notice that this right here's got 3 different numbers. Okay, and they're times 0, so it equals 0. So this is going to be the 0 property. Okay. Okay, down here, let's look at which one shall we look at? I think we need to look at number 27. So number 27, hold on, give me a moment here. There, I'm getting all set up. Number 27. Okay, 27. Okay, we've got 54 plus p plus 16. It's got it grouped with that one, but I'm going to do 2 different properties. I'm going to switch those 2 numbers around. Okay, so I've got p plus 54, and I'm doing teacher talk here, so I'm doing plenty of talk about this. and 16. Okay, but I want to group my two numbers together because you really can't do much more to combine these ones here. So it's going to be P plus 54 plus 16. And those ones are grouped together. Okay, so we got P plus 70. Okay, and that's our answer for number 27. Okay, so let me get this out of here. Okay, and let me get rid of this thing here. Okay, and when you group these, it's not so bad either, is it? So let me get a pen here. So we've got these two. We can multiply those together, right? So that's going to be 35 and times G. This is for number 31. Okay, and when you do that, notice that we've got the coefficient behind it, and it's supposed to be in front of it. So rewrite it as 35G when you do those. Okay. So you've got these 12 numbers to do in our homework. And then there's some more I want you to do too. Where is it at? Ah, here they are. So I want you to also do these order of operation ones. Okay, these are with the order of operation. I can't write on this page. Anyway, so I want you to do these order of operation ones. These three right here, though, are extra credit. Okay, so I will see you in class tomorrow, and we'll work on these, and we have class time to work on them. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.